Mhm. So, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everybody. I guess there are a lot of people from all over the countries. So there was a question about mm, the wealth, right? 4 types of wealth. So, yeah, so the important, yeah, even, uh, just yeah, because I don't know, like whether you guys can hear me or not.
Rinpoche, we can hear you.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank you.
thank you so much.
Yeah, exactly. So okay, so there's a like 4 type of wealth, right? Even like in when I read it in Tibetan stanza, Tibetan language, right? It seems to be like quite confusing. Um, yeah, so um, to explain the 4 wealth, um, for example, the wealth that is like very helpful to you, like your own relative, right? And the second one, no, the one is like very bad for you, just like your enemy. Second one is like your friend or your relative, very helpful to you. And third one is like a useless wealth. And fourth is the actual wealth. The actual wealth doesn't mean it's just a name, it doesn't mean like, oh, that's the thing that we have to get. Actually, the real wealth is the second one, the one who really help you. But the fourth one is something that it says longju nigur, like the um it's more like the regular wealth that is known in this world, the money, the car, all those stuff that helps you temporarily. That's the wealth. It's because in English translation, I guess there was like a actual wealth which seems to put more value in that word, right? Actual wealth seems like, oh, that's the wealth that we are supposed to get, but it's not, right? The real wealth is the second one. The fourth one, the reason why we call it an actual wealth is not actually called actual wealth in Tibetan word. Tibetan word it's called longchuni, the wealth itself, something like that, which means our ordinary wealth or wealth, the wealth that gives us a temporary satisfaction and happiness. Yeah. So the confusing stuff, right? Because when we separate these 4 wealth, it gives us a certain um, idea that, okay, so there is a 4 types of wealth. One is really bad for us, second one is very good to us, third one is sort of useless, and fourth one is the regular wealth, something like that way. But it's not like that, because, right, first thing we must understand is that it was like many years ago. um, mm, uh, we were receiving, with some of Rinpoches and monks, we were receiving a teaching from His Eminence Ludin Rinpoche Senior, and he told us that, oh, the because he was talking about he was giving us some instructions, for those serious, hardcore Buddhist practitioners, those people who want to stay in retreat for many years, for whole life, right? So especially for them, Rinpoche gave us some instruction. So at that time, Rinpoche said, there's a lot of obstacles that those people, the hardcore Buddhist retreat people might face. So he said, right, it doesn't matter, what kind of obstacle you might think, something happened, you got sick, you got robbed, you fall down, you broke your leg. Oh, those are obstacles, you might think. But for us as a Buddhist, as I said before last time, that everything, has its own definition. And when you become Buddhism, that the laws of definition will change, right? So for us, as we say, as we talked before, like a karma, we say, right? Karma, whatever makes you do a practice, that's a good karma. If something happened to you like bad, and it sort of like evoke, devotion, trust, sense of impermanence, sense of urgency, that bad thing that makes you invoke your, devotion, all those stuff is actually a good karma, right? As I say, definition change. So exactly like that. So if we talk about obstacle in terms of, Buddhism, his eminence, he said, whatever you say, the real obstacle is three poison, the defilement, deja, right? The attachment, anger, and ignorance. These three are the real obstacle. Now, you might think, oh, it's so Buddhist oriented stuff, but it's not really. It's something that really happened in our life. Like, for example, we need to understand, like, when we see our house being burned down by a fire, right? At that time, it really hurt us, like we couldn't like bear seeing your own favorite car being scratched by some random guy, right? So it's very unbearable. Now, for us, for a lot of people, there's an obstacle, something bad, unfortunate, right? But we need to think at this moment, like, why that incident, a random guy scratching your car brings you unbearable suffering. Why? Right? So now the genuine, the actual obstacle is in the play, which is our attachment toward that car. Because we are so attached to that car, and when someone scratch that car, then it really make you unhappy. It makes you suffer a lot. It's unbearable feeling, right? So now see what turned that feeling into so sour, into something very unbearable, is because your own attachment, right? So if you have no so-called attachment toward that car, just like if you see that car as something has no essence, something like emptiness, or let's say if you have no value toward that car, no matter what happened to that car, it's not gonna hurt you, it's not gonna make you feel miserable at all, right? So see, what makes you feel so bad, what makes you feel so miserable, it's your own attachment, it's your own anger, it's your own ignorance. So that what makes things bad for us, that what turn that neutral thing into something very miserable stuff, right? So it's your own attachment, it's your own anger, it's your own ignorance. That's what His Eminence meant at that time. I actually spent some time like thinking about it, or how like that, and I kind of, yeah, of course, yeah, it was like quite um mm, um simple to understand, because that's what we have been learning in Buddhism, in Buddhist philosophy, right? So see, so the point is that, so now so we are talking about four types of wealth, right? The good one, the bad one, the useless one, and the normal wealth, right? So those four wealth. So the confusion here you guys might have is that, oh, so what type of wealth is good for us? So what type of wealth is like bad for us? What type of wealth is so useless for us? Is there like any different like uh, wealth in nature, right? So you might think like that. So now, no, it's not like that. It depends on how you accumulate those wealth. Yeah, it totally depends on how you accumulate those wealth, right? So the first wealth, which is very bad, so so it also describe, like at the beginning you earn those wealth with a lot of struggles, right? And a lot of struggles, like for example, like let's say you buy a car with a lot of you buy a car with lots of hard work, you may think you genuinely accumulate all those wealth, but when we start to accumulate those wealth at the beginning, we have that attachment, right? We want to be the best. We want to have the beat everyone else. I want to have the best car. This kind of sense of competition, sense of pressure, all those stuff, right? So because of that wealth, now when you have that wealth, right? So as we say, if you have something, that's a problem. If you don't have something, that's also a problem, right? So when you accumulate all those wealth, there's also a sense of insecurity. You might lose it. You might, anything could happen to those wealth. So the same wealth, right? It doesn't have to be a different wealth. There's no like certain separate four wealth, but it's an actual like one wealth. It can be transformed into four different kind of wealth. Yeah, if you accumulate those wealth with a lot of attachment, or with lots of anger, or with a lot of competition, then even when you have all those wealth, you may not be happy with those wealth, because we begin with a lot of competition, and competition never end, right? And even if you make all those wealth, you are not going to be like super safe. There's always insecurities. So that's why my point, right, my main point is that there's no like four separate, like let's say, US dollar is very good for us, but Indian rupee is like so bad for us, and Singapore dollar is like quite okay, the normal wealth, and Malaysian dollar is like totally useless. It's not something like that. A Singapore dollar, Singapore money can be a good to us, it can be bad to us, it can be useless to us, and it can be normal to us. But it depends how you accumulate those wealth. It depends how you use those wealth, right? So that's what the four wealth means, right? So longju sushi dada nindo given lake para ni the lundu be ngobo dala gave cheda chup. This is the first one, right? See, chulda sabo tangbo da keda sungora part the nangi no the tapsuge tamar no longju dala. So it's exactly what I've said. Yeah, so it depends, right? How you, first of all, it depends how you accumulate, how you earn those wealth, and when you have those wealth, how are you gonna use it, right? And how so if you don't use it properly, you're probably gonna waste it, right? So a one wealth can be of four different wealth, but it depends what makes this a wealth into four different wealth is your own sort of the way you use it, and that's the thing. So yeah, so for example, right, we have a story. I think you guys are quite familiar with we call it Togde, it's like a 6 monk. It's actually a 6, yeah, 6 enlightened beings. I don't know how to say it in Sanskrit. Yeah. There's like 6 enlightened beings, right, at Buddha time. So there's among them there's a one enlightened being. Actually, they are more famous. They are well known for being like mischievous, the rule breakers. That was the rule breakers. That was the rule that was established by Buddha, himself. So among them, there's a one like very mischievous one. His name is like Nyerga. In Tibet, we call it Nyerga. In English, I don't know, like delightful. Nyawargawa, the delightful one, something like that. His name, right? So, so somehow he got like, it's supposed to be in Chewagya, Chewachik. So saya Chewa 100, 10 million. 10 million kilos of gold. 10 million kilos of gold, 10 million kg, right? 10 million kgs of gold. He got that delightful one. He got 10 million kgs of gold. And for him, right, that gold was for him, I mean, that gold is a wealth, but for him, because of the way he used or the way he hold those gold, the wealth is like totally useless. It's the third one, in the useless wealth. For him, he has 10 million kgs of gold, but he is so stingy, he never used those gold. Yeah, right. So he never used those gold. He was so stingy. He got 10 million kgs of gold. I'm saying 10 million, right? And he was very stingy, and he never used that gold. But one day he got very sick, right? He got very sick, and he went to see a doctor. The doctor who was a personal doctor of Buddha himself, right? So he went to meet that Buddha's personal doctor, and Buddha's personal doctor say, he has this, in Tibet we call it like lunginas. It's more like a, some pressure, like air pressure. I don't know how do you call it in English, but in Tibet we call it lunginasa. It's mean that lots of pressure in his back, right? So because of that pressure, the doctor, right, advised him, hey, delightful one, you should have some marku, like butter soup, like butter, you just boil the butter and drink the butter, right? So turn that butter into a soup, boil it and drink the boiled butter. So it will stabilize your pressure, the pressure that is in his body, right? And yeah, so as I said, like, it doesn't matter whether it is gold or it is butter. For him, he's so miserly person, he's so stingy that he didn't, and he went out to collect, went out for alms, and he got like almost like many arm balls, full arm balls of butter, right? As you guys know him, right? He's very stingy guy. Instead of boiling that butter and drinking that butter soup, yeah, he just kept it, because that's how he kept his wealth, right? So that's why he got his, instead of drinking the butter soup, he just left it. He just kept it in his room, and yeah, he was not getting any better, and instead he was getting worse. And he went to see the doctor again, and doctor told him, now your like your physical condition is like is super bad now. You're probably, like, for you it's too late, the doctor told him, right? And he was so upset, and doctor told him, you were supposed to drink that boiled butter, but you didn't, so it's very late now, right? So he got so upset that instead of like uh no yeah, he was so upset. So what happened, he rushed back to his home, right? And he drank like all those three, like, let's say, a couple of full of butter, boiled butter, and that's too much, right? And he died because of that butter. Like, he consuming too much butter. He collected three, 4 armful of butter, right? But he, instead of consuming those butter as a medicine, he, out of being stingy, he just kept it, and his wealth, his health get worse. Then yeah, he see the doctor, and doctor says too late, and out of rush, out of without any consideration, he just drank all those butter, and because of that too much consumption of butter, he died at the end. So exactly, so wealth is something like that, right? So for example, if he was someone that use those wealth in a very bad way, that gold is a bad wealth for him, because let's say he used, let's say like say 10,000 kgs, right? Out of 10 million kg, 10,000 kgs he used buy guns, and use those gold to buy a gun, kill an animal, blah blah, makes lots of enemy. Yeah, that and he's gonna suffer, right? So yeah. And the second one, if we use those gold for offering to Buddha, Dharma, and your parents, and also offer help to someone who is like more unfortunate than him, right? And that real gold can be a helpful wealth for him, right? And yeah, but in his actual case, right, it was like a useless wealth. That gold didn't do anything for him, right? He died without doing anything at all, right? And yeah, and if you just because of those gold, if you buy some ice cream, if you buy some like good clothes, shoes, yeah, there's a the normal wealth for him, like, right? So yeah, so I guess confusion might be here, you guys might think, oh, there's like different type of wealth that we have to keep and we have to avoid. No, there's no certain things like that. A one wealth can be your enemy oriented wealth, and one wealth can be your a relative or friendly wealth, and the one can be a useless wealth, and one wealth can be our normal wealth. So it depends on how you conduct your life with those wealth. So it differs, it differs based on your own conduct. So there's no different types of wealth, there's no in nature, right? So but out of this, right, all of this wealth, it says that we always always, as I should mention now, that about definition, right? The karma definition change, right? For now, the wealth is also changing based on definitions, right? And also now, for Buddhism, what is real wealth? For Buddhism, the real wealth is contentment. Like whenever you talk about, like whenever Buddha, Bodhisattvas are in books, or in Buddhist books, when we talk about like what is wealth in terms of Buddhism, right? For us, yeah, it's always the contentment. Contentment has two meaning, It means that you're happy with what you have right now. This is the first meaning, right? Second meaning is not being so like you are happy with a little. That's a second meaning. You are happy with what you have. So we need to understand, it doesn't mean that you have to be poor. A lot of people are saying, oh, if you have contentment, you need to be poor. No, you can have 100 million, you can be like the richest person in the world, and you still can be contented with that much of money, right? It's the real thing we need to understand is that you are happy with what you have. If you get more, it's okay. If you don't get more, it's still okay. You're happy with what you have. This is the first meaning of contentment. Second meaning is that I don't need much and I'm happy with little. So in Tibetan, we call it Döpa Chungshin Chokshebas, happy with little, and I'm happy with what I have right now. It can be many, yeah, it can be most, but I'm happy with what I have. So for Buddhists, when we talk about wealth, it's not, we're not talking about Singapore dollar or US dollar or any dollars. We are talking about contentment. And the reason why we emphasize so much on contentment is that the person who is contented, yeah, that person is the happiest person in the world. Because for us, usually why we work so hard for money, because we want to, spend a good life, right? Happy life. So in that term, right, if there's a certain things that makes your life much easier, much happier, then that thing has to be a wealth, the precious wealth, the best wealth, right? So we need to have some common sense. Like money itself doesn't really makes us happy. Yeah, yeah. Young people might think, oh, money just because there's a lot of jokes, right? People say money can give you happiness. Just give me $1 million and I'll show you, like what kind of happiness can be bought by $1 million. Yeah, but that's not type of happiness that we actually want, right? Whenever we want, whenever we buy a car or let's say a house, we buy with regard that house or that car is gonna make me the happiest one. I'm gonna be super happy forever when I'm gonna buy this car. Yeah, we have this kind of not in surface right level, but in deep inside, we always think with that expectation. I want him, I want her because she is the one. She's the chosen one. She's gonna make me happy, for my whole life, right? With that regard, we buy. With that regard, we marry, we love, we buy all those stuff, right? Because we think that's the wealth, but it's not true. You get married, there's a trouble. You get new job, there's a pressure. You buy a new car, there's a lot of um like uneasy stuff going on, right? But if you are contentment, if you have that contentment, if you are contented, it's 100% sure that you're going to be the happiest one, right? So for Buddhism, in terms of Buddhism, the wealth, what is wealth? Wealth is that something that makes you really happy. And for that, for us, we don't need money. We are not talking about money, we are talking about wealth. But I don't mean that money is not needed. Money is super needed. That's why at the very beginning of this teaching, right, Chugil Papa, he himself said, we need to have a balanced life, spiritually balanced and worldly balance. We need to have a proper job, we need to have a proper house, we need to have a proper clothes to wear, and we need to have a proper medicine to eat when we are sick. Those are inevitable, right? And if we have that, then we can do practice. And there's a balance. We have to create balance because just because of spirituality, we are not giving up everything that is worldly, right? So it has to be very balanced. But the point here is that contentment is the real wealth, right? If you want to be happy, don't buy a car. If you don't want to be happy, don't buy a handphone. If you really care about your own happiness, you need to take care of your own contentment, because that's for sure going to make you happy. And there's a guarantee, right? Yeah. So, and there is also because we have there's also a short story regarding the contentment, that there was a king in our text. There's like wheel turning wheel king. Yeah, now let's say like let's say someone who really conquered the whole world, right? So that type of king, there was a king, right? And he really conquered the whole world. I mean, we also need to understand, right? It's like 2,500 years ago, 3,000 years ago, 5,000 years ago, these stories belongs to like at that time. So when we say world, like maybe it means like few like countries, right? We need to know that, because a lot of people actually glorify too much. When we say world, it means like world, the world that we mean right now. It's not like that. For that at that time, maybe India is just a world, because they have no any technology to see that, oh, there's America, there's a west country, there's eastern country. They have no idea, right? Let's say there's a king who really conquered the world at that time, let's say, right? And now he was thinking, okay, I conquered this world, now I need to conquer the heaven, right? So yeah, he fly to heaven, and he also and when the king of the heaven, I don't know how do you call it in English, in Sanskrit, in Tibet we call it Gajin, Gajin, maybe Indra, I think it's Indra, I don't know. Yeah, so Indra, the king of the heaven, when he saw that king, right, in Tibet we call it Tapataya, the renowned one. renowned one, Chapatai, the immense renown, immense famous. Yeah, it's something like that. His name, the king name, right? The turning world king's name. So when the heaven king saw that king, right, that human earth king approaching him, he saw, oh, this king is like super powerful, like in terms of karma, super rich, so powerful. So I'm not gonna fight him because I'm pretty sure I'm gonna lose. So I will just share my throne with him, right? Share my throne with him, so I don't have to fight. And I am not. If I fight, I'm losing it, right? So he, being wise, and they share the throne. Like they were, it's a maybe there was like a very big throne where two big king can like fit. So yeah, they were happy. But after some time, there was a war from Hamayin, like I don't know how to say Hamayin. Um, the beings that who are not human and who are not God, in between realms, right? Asura, is it Asura? Yeah. So those type of like beings approach the heaven, and they were like like amassing a huge army, and they're preparing to fight, uh, put a war on heaven. and um the king, the heavenly king, he thought, okay, like he's the earth, the king that belongs to earth, he's like much more powerful than me. So maybe I should just let him go, right? No, the king, heavenly king, he tried, but he failed. And he asked the king, the earth king, to tame those asuras. Asura, is it Asura? I'm not very sure. I think it's not Asura. Hamayan, demigod. Yeah, demigod. Yeah. So yeah, when the king, the sea, yeah, instantly he just defeated all those demigods army, right? Then at that very moment, he's supposed to be happy that he helped other, the heaven. He's supposed to be, rejoicing, but instead, what he thought, okay, more powerful than the heavenly king. I know that, so I'm supposed to have like bigger position. I'm supposed to be the one and only king of this heaven, right? So at that moment, when he has that kind of greed born into him, yeah, his whole karma to become a king, that makes him king depleted. He just exhausted all this karma, and he fall all the way down to earth, and he died, right? Now, yeah, it is in our text, right? Yeah, so these things happen. So this is a story that it's happened around Buddha time, I guess. I'm not very sure, but it's something like that, right? So contentment is it's very, very important. So whenever we talk about wealth, yeah, the first thing that we must understand, right? For Buddhism, what is the wealth? Is our contentment, because the purpose of wealth is to make our life easy and happy, and contentment does it the best, right? So we need to know. But there's nothing wrong with having $1 million in your bank. Yeah, it's something that we must know. Yeah. And there's also, I'm just following the four wealth stanza, right? There's at the bottom, there's like the how we should work, right? It says 자와르베 술양니 딱니 루바르 장바데 룹니 똑바 lumbushi 담배 슝데 중알라 니 기와 칼라바 스타션 되는 저지다 두근두 교범에 베기로 last. Now this is also very important. Like I really want, I don't know, to me it always, those kind of like things that we face or we do every day in our life, yeah, it hits me differently. For it says that whatever you do in your life, we first we need to examine. First we need to know, what the situation is. Then we should work, right? Now, this is how a wise person should work. First examine, right? First examine, then do the work, right? Yeah, not the other way around, first do the work and later examine. Now, for example, if you are having a food, you should know whether that food is good for you or not, right? Yeah, if you know, oh, there's a poison in this food, I'm like I have this peanut allergy, right? Then yeah, you should examine whether that food has the peanut or not. Yeah, if you think, oh, let me try, then you try and there's a peanut and you're done, right? So it says, right, first examine, then you do the work, not the other way around. And if you examine first and you do the work, most likely you will be successful. But if you didn't, right, if you are not success, you won't have any regret. Now, this is very important stuff, right? So the reason why I say it's important is that because a lot of people think, like, oh, we should plan for future, like like everything so confirm or something. But it's not like that, right? We don't know, you might have a like blueprint for everything, but tomorrow you might die, you might lose your hand, you might lose your head, or something might happen, right? There's no guaranteed, right? So we plan a lot, but it's more important is that whatever you do in your life, you do something that won't make you regret, really. It's very important. So that's why Dogen Sugar Papa say that whatever you do, right, you do first, you examine and you do the work and you try your best. And if it doesn't happen the way you want it to happen, there's no regret in that, right? So that's what he meant. So this is also something that we should do. So for example, the question that occurs to me is that because it asked by so many people all the time, like, how do we know whether he is a good teacher or not? Because actually it also right there, just following stanza, there's a stanza that explain about, like, there's so many teachers, but there are so many teachers, but how do we know that that's the good teacher, right? Because especially it's so confusing. Dogen Trigul Papa, the master, he himself said that it's so confusing because there's so many teachers and none of them are saying that, oh, I don't know what I'm saying is like is not true. He whatever that other master was saying is a true. There's no one saying that. Everyone's saying, I'm the best. I'm the I beat everyone. Whatever he was telling is wrong. I'm the one who tell you the truth, right? So it's so confusing right now. So for that, right, you have to examine, especially if you really want to meet a good teacher in your life, if you really want to meet a good friend in your life, because that for Buddhists, yeah, these things matter the most, your teacher and your companion, right, who help you to understand Buddhism or who help you on your spiritual path, right? So for that, right, you have to examine. It's very important. If you want to make a friend, you have to examine whether what kind of person he is, what kind of teacher he is. So for that, right, how do you know what kind of teacher is? Because it's very important, isn't it? So how do we know? In Dogen Trigul Papa, the master, he said that we should uh, we should how to say, learn what he said in his text. You understand? So it's mean that, oh, how do we know that Buddha is a good teacher? We should learn what he's teaching. We should learn his teaching, right? We should learn his teaching. That's how we know he is a good teacher, because in our text, he is a good teacher. What's the quality of good teacher? It's usually it say that first of all, he's teaching, and second, um, whether he has the compassion or not, right? And third thing is that whether he care about your student, the seemingly you are the student, right? Whether he care about you or not. So these are the three qualities. But how do we know? We don't know really these days. All teachers and many gurus are just like guy like me. We are super good at like acting, really pretending, because that's how we were brought up, right? In puja, we are actually super sleepy, but we like tend, like we look like we are doing prayers, but we are actually sleeping. So we are that kind of like very well trained actor. So it's super hard, right? It's super hard to know whether I have compassion for you guys. I do care about your spiritual path. Whatever I'm saying, it's like Buddhist teaching, blah. Who knows those things? I mean, who knows my mind? Who can read my mind? But what you can read, what you can understand, is what I'm speaking, right? So we should grab that thing to uh, ascertain that, oh, he's the good person. That's the only thing. Mind, we don't know, because Buddha, he himself said, no one can judge. A person cannot judge a person. Human cannot judge a other human, right? We have no way to judge. But what we can do is that we can listen or study his teaching, and we can probably guess what kind of person he is. So now, forget about Buddha, forget about teacher. But now, what we need to understand is that for you, now let's move it, to us. Okay. So now, what kind of person you are is what, like how you express yourself, what you talk about, what you think about, what you do in your life. That's really gonna be a factor, um, to have trust, to have others trust, to have other respect. It's mean a lot, because I've met a lot of people, right? And I basically, yeah, I'm very judgmental guy, to be honest. Really, I'm very, very judgmental guy. Like, their impression, the first impression matters a lot to me. Yeah. it, I mean, right? I'm not saying that, oh, if I know that he's that kind of person, I'm gonna like just put it on my Facebook post and say, oh, that guy is like totally douchebag. I'm not saying, like, for me, I need to know what kind of person he is, right? So how I try to understand what type of person he is, that I try to carefully listen what he's talking about. Really, like what how he treat others. For me, that matters a lot. So yeah, so you will see a lot of people who always talk about, oh, I'm super happy, I'm so successful. Most of the time you meet that type of person in this world, really, like always try to talk about themselves. Yeah. So that's exactly, for teachers, right? If you want to find a good teacher, yes, you need to really spend time, learning their teaching, what they speak and what they do, right? Our mind, nobody knows. So for yourself, if you really want to put a good impression on others, right? If you really want others to respect you, because you want to help them, first, if you are not respected by others, they will never ask you for your help, right? So if you want that respect, the first thing we need to change ourselves is our own, verbal action and physical action. No one can read your mental action. Yeah. So yeah, that's the thing that I really want to tell you about you guys. And yeah, so if you do that, right, if you do all those stuff, doing the examining thing, testing all those stuff, then if thing doesn't really happen the way you want it to happen, there's no regret. So you basically, the real message here is that you try your best. That's the real message, and you really try your best. Because there's also one story, regarding that, like having no regret at the end. there's a king. His name was in India, right? His name was King Ayur. So he saw painting of Buddha, something like that, and he was so totally devoted by Buddha Shakyamuni, and he went to see, right? And yeah, so he was leaving his place, right, palace. Then he put his enthroned, his own son, and make his own son a king, and he left the palace, he left the kingdom, and he met Buddha, and Buddha, oh nice, be a monk, blah blah blah, all that stuff, and he become a monk. Then after that, becoming a monk, right, that the son, right, that son, he was a king now. Then he like sack or fired all those good ministers, and he put all those bad people, make them the minister of their kingdom. Then all those ministers were bad, he himself was bad, and yeah, the whole country start doing bad things, and yeah, stop doing good things, right? So something like that happened, and the king heard, the father heard, and he asked his Buddha for he asked, Buddha, I might leave for some reason, and he left, right? And he left, and those ministers, they knew, oh, his dad is coming back, so if he's come back, right, he's probably gonna fire all of us, those bad minister, and he will take back all those good ministers. So we have to trick. Then those ministers, they ask the they told they misinformed the son, saying that, oh, you're king, your dad is back, with a lot of army, huge army, so he's probably gonna kill you or do something wrong, right? So out of fear, the son send assassins to kill the dad. So yeah, and when the assassin met the king, right, and they said, oh, your son appointed us as assassin to kill you, assassinate you. So, and the king said, right, just wait, just give me some time, right? And just send. I want some message to be delivered, right, to my son. So he said, I came, right? I came with a huge army. Like that's the king, the king, the dad. He said, I came here with my army of Buddhist robe, which means that he doesn't have any army. He came here for him, his own robes and his own, those Buddhist stuff. In Tibet, we call it karsil. I don't know all those. I don't know how you call it. It's more like a. Um, I don't know how you call it. The stuff that the monk carried, just because the reason why you carry that stuff, because when you hit, right, when you hit the ground, because India used to be a very rainy and a lot of green grass, so there's a lot of insect on the ground, right? So when they step, there's a chances of stepping on insect and killing them, right? So before they take a step, they always hit that thing, on the ground. So on the tip of those staff, it's like a staff, there's a rings, there's a lot of rings, so it will make sound like ting sound, ting sound. So all the insect on the ground will just spread out, just run away, because they heard that noise. That's why they hit the ground. Whenever they walk, they have to hit that staff on the ground, so it will make noise and all the animals will just run away, right? So yeah, he said, I came with my army of my Buddhist robe and that staff. That's it, I got. That's all I got, right? So so his message was something like, do good, do nothing bad, blah blah blah, all the stuff, right? Then yeah, and he asked, I'm ready to die now, and those assassins killed him, right, and delivered the message to the son. And he got no enemy, he got no army, he was just there alone, right? And he want you to be good, blah blah blah, all the stuff. And the son, he was full of regret, because he didn't examine, right? He didn't test anything. He just did it out of like impulse. So yeah, he was like total regret. But the ministers, all those bad ministers, they were telling him, it's okay, he was just lying, blah blah blah. And all of a sudden, he felt okay, right? And because of that, some because of those like wrongdoings, there were a lot of this I know dochar, like rain of stones. There were a lot of rain of stones, landsliding, and all of those people and minister and king, the son himself, they died because of those landsliding or those natural disasters. So this is one of the thing, like the story regarding like whatever you do with um, examining first. You don't just do it, because if you don't do it, you will end up, regretting in the end. So whatever you do your best. So this is the thing that I really wanted to mm, um, explain, right? Yeah. So, and second thing is that mm, I don't know. Just before I logged in, right? I just kind of feel that I want to share this thing that we must know really, like because sometimes we are very unhappy, sometimes we are very happy, and we are so confused why I'm so happy right now. Yeah, there is a lot of feelings like that. Recently I have that kind of feeling, like why I'm unhappy, like why my eyes are so teary right now. Yeah, it happens a lot, like why? Because I'm confused, I don't know what's really happening, right? Yeah. So the thing is that we need, I mean, I'm not saying that, oh, if you do that, then you will be like happy forever, that you will never have some teary eyes. I'm not saying that. But one thing that I really kind of like, it's not like I know, something that I kind of remember, when I was in college, like when we are young, right? When we are young, we prefer the uh, feelings over thought. When we were young, we always care about our own feelings. That's it, like, just to be happy, go crazy, right? Because there's a two thing in Tibet we call chorwa and dushe. Like chorwa is a feelings, right? So when we are young, we are more like feeling oriented human being. But after, like you crossing the 30, after like 30 years, that you kind of prefer, the thoughts, our mental thoughts, conceptualization, right? Thought over feelings. At that time, we don't really care about feelings that much. We care more about thoughts. Like, because um, at that time, right? It doesn't really uh, uh, like when you really when you get old, like when you get older, yeah, the feeling, it doesn't really affect as much as our own thoughts. Yeah, when we're young, we don't care about our own thoughts. We don't care what you are thinking. We only care about just going wild, right? We just care about going to club, drinking, party, all those. We were more like adrenaline junkies, right? But when we are young, we are more like thought oriented kind of person. We always think about, oh, what our neighbor is thinking about me, oh, what might happen to me in the future, right? When we were young, we don't think like that. So when we are young, and especially most of us are probably like old, right? Like old generation type of people. So we need to really care about our own thought. What you are thinking right now, it matters the most. Maybe its thought is not the very accurate terms to use right now, but in Tibetan we call it dushe, dusheba, like the thought that um how to say, sort of, for example, discrimination, right? Discrimination is one type of thought. When we are young, we don't discriminate, but that one, once we get older, we start to have that, oh, he's a CEO of that person, oh, he's just a janitor, right? Oh, he's a black dude, he's a white dude. All those racist thing, all those discrimination, the gender segregation, all those things are our thought. When we were very young, we don't care about those stuff. But once we get older, we start to value so much about our own thoughts, right? And it's not that we care about, the thoughts really play much more roles in our life when we get older. So yeah, for us, right, what we really need to do is like our thought, what you think, how you see others, how you so those things are very important, feelings and thoughts. So for us above 30, let's say, right, we should really care about our own thoughts. And today, and of course, right, how you're gonna take care of your own thoughts, we have to be aware, awareness, as we say. Yeah, as we talk about it, like at the first session, awareness, we have to be aware, like what we are feeling right now, what we are thinking right now. So aware, so feelings and thoughts, these two things is very important. Like we are almost, like our life is more revolved around feelings and thoughts. Feelings more when we were young, thoughts more when we get older, right? Because those all those thoughts are just consequences of things or information that we stacked up in our brain when we were young, right? When we were young, we don't care about a race thing, but once we get older, like, oh, this guy is just a fisherman, he is like a CEO of company. Then we have this kind of, discrimination, all those things happen later in our life, right? So yeah, we need to take care of these two things most. And how? The only way is to be aware. We need to aware. Otherwise, yeah, there's no other way. And just to have some to touch on today's, about Sharakayana, the Shabdrung and Tathran, right, the Mahayana practices. So we don't have much time left, so I just want to make it like short. Like I just want to give you a simple example. For example, let's say I'm a person. Let's say I'm in my room and I saw a snake. Now I can use this, like, we can use this example to explain, what is, Sharavakayana, the lesser vehicle, like Shabdrung, right, and the Mahayana, and let's say Vajrayana. So Michao, right? So three vehicles. The first one, right, Sharavakayana. So let's say those. What does that snake represent? The snake represent our three poisonous mind, anger, attachment, and ignorance, right? Three. So that snake represent three poisons. And you are the one who practice, right? Let's say you are the, Shabdrung. If you are Shabdrung, how I conduct my practices in order to achieve the enlightenment, right? So so for those Sharavakayana, when they say snake, right, they don't care about anything else. They just get rid of snakes. That's the Shabdrung, and that's the Sharavakayana. They don't think about coming back to samsara. Yeah, they don't think about coming back to samsara. They just see a snake. Oh, that's the, through poison. Let's just get rid of that thing, and just enjoy, just enjoy the nirvana. I don't give like any shit about, others. That's it. That's all I want. I don't want to be lingered around in samsara. I just want to be free of samsara. I only care about myself. So let's get rid of this snake and live happily in a snakeless room. Now this is a Sharavakayana. And when it comes to Mahayana, right? It's not only about, like getting. It's not really about getting rid of the snake. It's more like helping the snake. Yeah, helping the snake, it's not exactly like, yeah. So so for Mahayana, right, this, as I say, it's a snake. Snake represent a three poison, right? But it's more like, it's not only getting rid of that snake, but you know you there is actually many way to explain this, how to say, the example. But for me, right, I would rather say, it's not about just getting rid of this snake. You are getting rid of this snake, but also so you can get rid of other snake as well. For Mahayana, it's something like that. You are getting rid of this snake, but not just because of this snake, because you want to help others to get rid of snake as well. That's why you are getting rid of those snakes, right? Because you are, as I said before, we are achieving enlightenment. Why? Because we want others to achieve enlightenment, right? You're achieving enlightenment. Why? Because you don't want to see others suffering, so you want others to achieve enlightenment. That's why you are achieving enlightenment, not because you want to free yourself from samsara, right? So for Mahayana, it's something like that. For Tantrayana, yeah, they don't care about that snake. They think snake is good. Yeah, for Vajrayana, they are making the snake their own friend and taking advantage of that snake to make this room a threatless room, a safe room, because now the snake is their own friend. Yeah, it's something like that. So that's how, for Charvakayana, they get rid of snake because they want to have a snakeless room. But Mahayana, they want to get rid of snake because they want to get rid of more snakes in other rooms as well, for other people, right? And for Vajrayana, they don't care about snakes because they think snake is good. They use these three poison, they take advantage of poison, because now you might think, why do we take advantage of this poison? How? Because the I don't know how to use this word, the intensity. Yeah, because the intensity of these three poisonous, three poison. You know that you all of you guys know the intensity of this three poison. Intensity. Like whenever you are angry, you can feel the intensity, right? Whenever you are in so love, so attached to something, you see the intensity. You understand the intensity of ignorance, right? So for Vajrayana, it's more like, it's not that anger itself is good, but there is using this anger to intensify it. Yeah, something like that, So yeah, this is like how you just a short example, like how all these three vehicle work. Yeah, and but the nirvana of Sharakayana is not actual nirvana. It's just it's more like a rest. Rest. It's more like a lobby to rest, right? So maybe I can. We still have 2 minutes, right? Let's say, right, what really happened. For example, in Sharakayana's teaching, right, in their own book, it says that, oh, that's the like a last point. There's a terminal point. There's no any further away from that, right? They think that's the last point, but no, it's not the last point. They say, but what really they say, like when a Shravakayana practitioner, they attain enlightenment, they just die, they just like die like a dying lamp, butter lamp. When it just go, when they just run out of oil, right? And there's nothing, there's only darkness, right? They say something like that. What we don't say like that. When they achieve enlightenment, they will because they have no intention to help other beings. They have no intention to come back for others, right? So when they achieve the enlightenment and they die, I mean, they physically die, right? When they achieve enlightenment, they are still Buddha, enlightened being, right? But they're not dead yet. So when they die, Shavakana, they themselves said, is nothing. It's just like darkness. There's nothing. Like you burn a cloth, that's it. Now it's into a thin air, right? But we don't say like that. When you die, Mahayana doesn't say like that. When you die, you're just born into a lotus, somewhere in heaven. By heaven, I didn't mean, our samsaric heaven, like the Amitabha or all those heavenly realms. They're born into in lotus, right? Then they will be in lotus for like a thousand eons of alive. They will just get stuck in that lotus, right? And this is something that bodhisattva, right, Mahayana practitioner, like scared, like feared a lot. They are super scared of those stuff. Because why? Because it impede them to help other beings for eonless life. They will stuck in that a lotus, doing nothing, right? Doing nothing. That is something that bodhisattva fears a lot, right? So for them, it's something like they will stuck. And when the time comes, right, when they have this connection, when there's connection, the karmic connection ripens, then the Buddha will appear, and Buddha's shine, and the lights, Buddha's aura lights, it will open up the lotus, that Shavakayana is just, we call it Gokpala Lhungwa, it's mean that you are just Shendin Chibukokpa. It's like non-helping, like cessation. Because as long as you are in that lotus, you can do nothing. That's it, right? Because of your own karma, you're just stuck in there, right? So Buddha appear, and out of Buddha's light, they will open, the lotus will open, and a Buddha will teach him, now it's your time to do something, to practice more, go further away. Then because of Buddha's teaching, then they will start a Mahayana practice. Then and later they will attain enlightenment. Yeah. So that's how we Mahayana, like define, explain the enlightenment. Yeah. So they will they will get enlightened, and after that they will come back to samsara to help other beings. Yeah. And for me, for Vajrayana, and there's also a very different way of explaining, the bhumis, 13 bhumis, all those stuff, and it's very complicated. But for us right now, it's better we stick to a Mahayana teaching, right? It's something like that, So yeah, so the reason why I say, the Shavakayana enlightenment is not the terminal, is not the last point, is because there's also after Buddha's appearance, they will be awakened, and they will be inspired by Buddha to work, to practice, and eventually, they will enlighten. Because why? Of this karma, they don't have that karma, yeah, and yeah, something like that. And I think we should talk about it, because I guess we still gonna have to touch, in this regard, in this subject right now. So I'll see, what I can talk. I mean, I'll try my best to talk about, these two talk accumulation, the accumulation of Sonam Gyatso and Ishi Gyatso, accumulation of merit and accumulation of wisdom. These two things has a lot of things to do with Mahayana practices. So yeah, I hope we can talk about it like next time. Thank you.